The last company I applied to was housing. Imagine someone's trying to get me into their team and he's saying that, hey, even if you don't join, you'll still do good. I think I can even set up an agency. You are one of the first persons who asked me about this.
Hi everyone, welcome to Design Hack Podcast, and today is a very special podcast. Today we are going to host Saptarshi Prakash, who is the favorite of all. He's the director of design of Swiggy. He has worked with pioneer brands like Zeta, Housing. He has studied at IIT Madras, and he has gone through a wonderful journey. Today we're going to talk about a bunch of things, advice for young designers, and his marketing journey as well, which a lot of people don't know about. So tune it in. Hey Sapta, how are you doing?
Hey everyone, really good. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Abhay. Yep, I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming in. And I think I just want to get started with the podcast. I don't think you need an introduction, so I will jump right into the questions first, because as long as we go, I think people really want to know how your journey has been. So let's just start. How and why design?
Oh, okay. There's a good answer. There's a not so good answer. Which one do you want to hear?
Let's say both. Let's say the short version of both.
Okay. So the good answer, I can tell you what everyone says, because, I'm passionate about solving problems. I like to do this, or, I really care about the world and stuff, which all of them are true, by the way. But I think one of the main reasons why I landed up with design as a career, right? Two very solid and to the point answers out there. One, I was good at it, right? I liked it. That's why I was good at it. And I could, I was just designing various stuff in my college and all, graphic design, t-shirt posters. I think you know the drill, right? And then all of a sudden the industry changed in a way that somebody says, hey, you start doing it professionally and you're going to get good money, right? I started doing it like a hobby. Imagine, whatever your hobby is, playing carom or whatever it is. One fine day, if someone comes and tell you that I'm going to pay you for you pursuing your hobby, how would you feel? That's exactly what it was, right? So yeah, the industry changed, and I think I was already good at something. It just got married, and boom, I'm professional designer. That's literally how it happened. But having said that, all the things that I said before, I care about the industry. I care about, the culture of design in India. I care about some of the problems. All those things are also true. But I think the main reason why I made it professionally has to be those two, the industry and the fact that I already did a bit of it and I was a little bit good out there.
And I think makes a lot of sense, because you were good at it at the right time and the right place, and it all just fell into place, which makes a lot of sense at that time. So I think you started out with an engineering degree, and you went to IIT Madras, which for engineers also it's a dream. Designers, so I'm just not going to talk about, but engineers, it's a dream. You did your BTech, MTech both. So how was your call? Because for something you would have decided that engineering is something that you want to do, and then with that process, eventually figured out that no, engineering and design is something that is your calling. So how that shift and how college kind of shaped into the designer that you are?
Right. So, it was my choice to be engineer, right? I see a lot of people, who keep saying that, hey, I was forced to be an engineer by parents or somebody. That wasn't the case with me. I chose to be an engineer because I saw that, that's from a middle class family, right? That's a way to go ahead in life. You be a good engineer from a good college. You have a job before you even graduate. And then, everyone likes you. You are that Sharma ji ka beta, right? So I chose to be that. And of course, IITs were one of the best places to get an engineering degree. I worked for it. Of course, you had to work a lot for it. And I luckily made it, right? My college life, I would say, more than engineering, it taught me a lot of other things, right? The most important thing that I believe I learned from IIT is that I can learn anything, right? IIT gave me the confidence that I can learn anything, I can do anything, and I can figure out anything, right? That's a confidence. Almost everyone can do everything. It's just that we don't have the confidence, and even before getting there, we give up. So IIT made me feel that I can do anything. I just have to put the right effort in the right way, right? So yeah, my days at IIT, of course, towards the end of first year, I think I figured out that, hey, electrical engineering is good. I like it, but I wouldn't want to do it all my life. I was pretty clear about it. And it was not that, I was some black sheep or odd one out. There were so many people like me out there, right? People had different interests. People knew that, okay, now I want to build a career in finance, or I want to build a career in consult, or I want to be an IAS officer, or I want to be something else. So there were tons and tons of people who wanted to pursue something else other than their major of engineering. So I didn't feel left out or anything. Just that I didn't know exactly what I would want to do, because I joined IIT in 2009. 9 to 14 is when I was in IIT, 5 years. That was like BTech plus MTech, that dual degree program. And back then, UX design or any of these things were unheard of, right? Unheard of. Of course, I got into IIT with a Symbian phone and I graduated with an Android phone. So you know that, right? I have seen the shift happening. And of course, with all this Android, iPhone and everything, apps and stuff, with internet getting cheaper, all UX design and all became popular, right? Where whatever you're working on, whatever you're making, it's actually going to the grassroots level, your parents, your friends and everybody. So I've seen that shift while I was in IIT, right? But then again, I wasn't sure that, this could be a profession. Maybe I wasn't aware of so much, but I always thought that I would be a great manager, because I felt I had some things, being that corporate guy and all. So I thought I would do an MBA and I would get into the corporate world, right? Finance, management, consultant, whatever it was, I didn't care about much, but I knew that I had to go into the management way. And I did a lot of things in college also. I organized so many stuffs. I managed so many stuffs. I led so many stuffs. I started so many stuff. In addition to that, even academically, I took up a lot of elective courses in the management department. IIT Madras has a management department as well. So I learned principles of management. I learned economics. I learned symbolic logic. I learned tons of other things, okay, which are like core management stuff. I took up all those courses as well. So yeah, that's how it was, right? And my campus placements, I mean, we have that liberty. There are tons of companies which are not necessarily your core things, right? So I got into a company which was in a pure managerial role, even though I didn't have an MBA. I was just an engineer, right? So that's how it happened. I got into my first job as it was a managerial role. I was a project manager in an MNC. Design, that calling that you said, it never happened. It never happened. I never thought that design could be a profession which would give me a life that I would want to live, which would pay me the money I would want to earn, which would give me the respect I would want to earn, right? It was never the thing out there, right? Because the times were such, right? In 2015, no one really thought that I would be a designer. Today, maybe a lot of people do. So the calling or that bit of confidence happened when I was in my first job. I was a couple of months, almost a year into it, when one of my senior, who was also a similar, engineer from my college itself, IIT itself, he became a designer, professional designer. He joined housing, right? So when he reached out to me saying that, hey, we have an opening, would you want to? That's when I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe it is possible, right? Maybe I could actually do it. So the calling happened after my senior called me. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense, and I think that's what I was getting to. That I think industry told you that design is something that you can pick up, and that you just said before that that this was something like you getting paid for doing what you love, that basically your hobby, and makes a lot of sense around. But I think you still, as you said, that you did a part. You were organizing a lot of events. You were a part of a lot of clubs and everything. And you did a lot of freelancing, I think, at that time as well. So how did that aspect that kind of worked around how you were getting the clients, and how was that thing?
Right. So, again, I would have to give the credit to my college, because, see, the system is such, of course, IIT is the only college I've been to, so I cannot say how other colleges are. But the way it was is there were systems for everything. It's a well-oiled machine. There are lots of things you'll have to figure out, but then there are ways. It's not that, you are in an uncertain well and you don't know what to do, right? You'll always have some senior who knows about this. You'll always have someone who knows about the most obscure thing in the world, right? You go speak to them, spend a couple of hours with them, and you will have a good enough idea. That's how the environment of IIT is, okay? So, and entrepreneurship was another thing. Of course, we had an incubation center as a part of our management department, like I said. So there were lots of startups out there, and a lot of them were student startups. right? So as and when I started designing within the campus, right, for my starting with my hostel, my department, okay, I'll volunteer to design the department t-shirt, or I will design the that poster and so on, right? And then we have our college fests. Our college fests are pretty big, by the way. They're ISO certified and they're like a huge budget. We get huge sponsors and all stuff like that. It's like a next level thing. So getting to take up some position of responsibility in those fests is big. And when you apply for a job, if you had been a coordinator or a core member of Shastra or Sarang, which were our fests, was a big positions of responsibility, right? So I took up design there. I thought, hey, what, graphic design was one of the departments in those fests, because you'll have to design so many different things, brochures, and not so much digital back days, mostly print, right? So you have to design so many other things. So I got into that. I got into that for my cultural fest, tech fest, and then eventually, in my third year, I even became the core. Core was nothing but the head of that department. Something that you usually happen in your final year, say fourth or fifth year, right? I became that in my third year. So third year core was actually a term, right? So looked out. So by then everyone got to know that, okay, this guy designs. This guy is good at design. So that news was kind of spread. Of course, I was not even, a fraction of what I am today probably, but still for a college kid's standard, I was pretty good. And the news kind of spread. So say if any senior is starting up something and they need some design support, they would reach out to me, right? So if a senior's friend or something, word of mouth kind of played. And one of the first freelance project that I did was again for my college startup. The name of the startup was called Desto. Okay, the Desto stood for Destined to Design, I think something like that. I'm still in touch with the founder. His name is Sandeep, like pretty awesome guy. He's the one who actually first taught me what startup is. Why is it called startup, right? So he's my senior. So it was his company. So the value prop of Desto as a company was, it was an agency, to put it in simple words, but not fancy as agency which charges a lot of money, right? So their value proposition was, we would get all the work done by students. And since they are students, they will be cheaper. And since they are not the professionals who have been doing the same thing again and again, there'll be freshness in their work, right? So that was their value proposition. So of course, having said that, you wouldn't have big companies coming to an agency like this, right? So only smaller ones. So yeah, that's how it started. My first freelance project was to design the label of some local shampoo brand, shampoo bottle. Imagine shampoo bottle label.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my first project. I made one or two variants. I think the variants that I made didn't even get selected. I was not the only designer. There were many other designers working, right? The one that I made didn't even get selected, I think. I got 600 rupees paid for that. I was so happy. I was so happy, right? I took my friends out to CCD. We had a CCD in campus for treat because 600 is like oil-rich Arab, right? So that's how it started.
Yeah, at the time, I think 600 was worth it because, as you said, it was something that you were doing as a hobby. And if you're getting paid for what you, again, doing as a hobby, it's like something is top of the mind. You're like, yeah, I'm getting
Yeah.
paid now. Now let me treat my friends.
It's not just the
But
amount. Say, like 600 rupees, if I mean, I was in my campus just a few months back. 600 rupees is still too much. It's just that we have become richer. You go to a Starbucks, you pay coffee for 300 rupees. We got used to it. But if you just go to the reality, you get a very good cold coffee for 50 bucks, right? So 600 is a lot even today. So maybe, a couple of years, some 8-10 years back, it was even more, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense what you just said and how freelancing and everything worked out for you. But I think one thing that people don't know that I think really want to get deep into it, that I think one of the few first internships that you did, one of them was in marketing. So
Yes.
how did that come? Like, were you just exploring, or were you like thrown into like do some marketing first? Like, how did that happen?
just today, you asked this question. By the way, you are one of the first persons who asked me about this. I don't know. Everyone else would have probably ignored the fact that I have some background of marketing as well, although I'll tell you what marketing I exactly did. Today, someone replied to me on Instagram and said that, hey, you should have been in marketing. That person was actually amazed by the fact that I conduct those quizzes before I post a reel, right? And then I ask a question which is in the reel. And if they cannot answer, I say, hey, watch it once again. So he was like, you know exactly how to sell it. I was like, oh, wow, really? So, okay, coming back. So the first internship, yes, was online marketing. like online initiatives for marketing is what it was called. Like I said, right, I did it in my second year, at the end of my second year. So or was it third year? I don't remember. Okay, anyways, right, second or third year end. So like I said, I knew that I wouldn't want to do electrical engineering all my life. So like my internships should also reflect that. If I want to be that managerial, the management sort of person, that MBA sort of person, my internship should reflect that, right? My tech internship is not going to add any value to it. So I kept looking at that, and then of course, like I said, companies would come to our college to offer internships. So there was this company, which was it's called Soulflower. The company still exists, by the way. So they are into making spa related stuff, the expensive soaps and body lotions and creams and stuff. Body Shop, Body Shop is a brand. So similar to that, but an Indian brand, right? They're based out of Bombay. So they wanted to build their online presence by Instagram was just starting out back then, some Facebook or some Google ads and stuff. So that's what they hired me. There were two other interns from IIT Roorkee as well. So I think we had a great time out there. In that thing, I did a lot of stuff. I wouldn't call it that it was just marketing, because it was a smaller company, relatively smaller company. So I wore multiple hats. I designed a lot of things, graphic design mostly, right? Photoshop and all. That was the first time I ran Google ads, and apparently they even worked, right? So before that, I never ran a Google ad. I saw some ads. I knew that they were ads, but I didn't know what happens on the other side. How does someone run an ad? So that internship was all about figuring out what that was, right? I actually signed up for some Google's competition, which was for students, online ad championship or something. So they would give you certain amount of ad credit for free. I used that ad credit. I said, hey, you know what? I got this credit for you, so I'm going to run ads for you. They said, okay, sure, go ahead, right? Why would they not? They let me do a lot of stuff, right? So I ran ads. I figured out, what are the keywords which work and what are the things which doesn't work. Double exclamation work, triple exclamation doesn't work, and stuff like that, right? So we would run ads so that if someone searches for handmade soap, vegetarian soap, right? So our link should be the first one to come. So yeah, that was my internship. 2 months. I had a lot of fun.
That was crazy, and I think that would have been a crazy experience to kind of go through, because sure, like being creative, being tech, and then experiencing marketing, and then that was intent was also right, because you said that management was something that you were looking as an option for your future, and like sure, like exploring other things that really helps. So I think that makes a lot of sense with your experience and everything, with the degrees that you did, with the experiences that you had with clubs and everything. Then I think after the first job that you picked up, you got into housing. I think I still got the way that your senior
Housing
really
was
would have
the first design job. My
design
first
job. Yeah.
project management job was Cerner Corporation, an MNC. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first design job that you got. So how at that time things happened? For sure that you said that your senior was already there and he told that there's an opening. But how was the process at that time? They still used to be these many rounds, or like how was the process like?
Oh, much simpler, much simpler. In fact, I had made a detailed YouTube video around the same. It was like, first of all, there were very few people who were into design. And then to add to that, there were even fewer people who were good at it. So you get it, right? Beggars can't be choosers, as they say. So there weren't a lot of options. I remember I had, when my senior reached out to me, they gave me they had one casual phone call with me where we didn't talk design at all. It was a very general call that I had with one of the senior members, who later became the head of design of housing, by the way, right? Gaurav Joshi. I had a call with him. And after that, they just gave me a assignment. It was a very simple, it wasn't even a UX assignment. It was a UI assignment. If I look at today, right? They gave me a wireframe of a calendar app or something. And they said, just work on it, right? There wasn't a lot of brief as well. But then my senior had told me that, hey, whatever they have asked for, do 10x of that, right? Think about things which they wouldn't have expected you to think, right? That was that thing that he told me. So I did a lot of things. I showed different variants, different direction of thinking that I have taken. It was just a planner, calendar, reminder sort of app. And I made a nice presentation and I gave. They liked it, right? They liked it. But then there was, for a long time, I didn't hear back from them. I would keep following up with them, but I wouldn't hear back. But then one fine day they did, right? The entire process took a lot of time, because for the longest time they were not getting back, because their head of design was apparently in the US, at that point of time. So he was the one who would take a call and all. So then one fine day say, hey, you know what, everything is good, so we will fly you down to Bombay. I was in Bangalore, my first job. We'll fly you down to Bombay and we'll have one round. I said, okay. Before that, I never really saw that, someone would actually pay you flight tickets and all and fly you down just for one, 30-minute interview. So that was the new thing for me as well. So yeah, they bought me tickets and everything. So I went to Bombay one fine day. I reached their office. I had another very casual call with another senior person, Amit Das, who's the head of design at Urban Company now, right? So he asked me a few questions about my assignments. He said, okay, why did you do this? Why did you not do that? And all some very common, very regular stuff. A casual conversation is what I would call it in my books today. And that's it. He said, okay, wait for 5 minutes. And he stepped out of the room. And then, the head of design, Shovanil, he came in. He said, okay, fine, we'll offer you. This is what salary, what we'll give you. But we need you to join in 1 month. I said, okay, that's it. I said, okay, fine, you're free to go. So that's it. I just went and met some of my friends who were in Bombay and then I flew back to Bangalore. That's how it happened. It was, the process was very small because you couldn't be that strict because there weren't a lot of people. Yeah. Like today, I keep telling people, if I were in that position today, like today, of course, I hire from my team. If I had seen someone like me with a similar kind of portfolio or whatever that I had, I would probably reject that person. Right? Yeah, but that's how it was.
And I think now being this design being a lot forefront, design being mature, it's again at that time people really didn't even knew a lot of processes. It was still in the learning phase. It's just it was really new for people to even understand that this is a career, and then to getting the talents out there, how to judge them. It was really new for everyone, and that I think at that time that really this process really would have made sense for them. But I just have one question. I think that's personal as well, and that's general. I will ask two questions altogether. One,
Sure.
after housing, you shifted to Zeta. First, why? And second, like, how do you decide like this is the time? Because housing, Zeta, both were like good with their design maturity and everything at that time, and still, I think with then you shifted to Swiggy. Like, how did you decide that this is the time to shift from X to Y?
By the way, the housing Zeta, a small correction out there. Back then, Zeta was not even known. Nobody knew what Zeta was, when I was moving. It was very new. It was a 1-year-old company, I guess, right? So the reason I moved from housing was a lot of my, they later became friends, but then back then they were not really friends. In housing, I was that kid, right? So everyone was like, I would just look at this way. They probably didn't even know that I existed. So there were people who I looked up to at housing, right? Many of them had left. That was that end of 2015 when, right, a lot of things that happened. The founder was asked to leave and stuff like that. So people were saying that, hey, this is the downfall and all. Of course, it's not the downfall. Housing exists even today, right? Got acquired and all. But then all the people who I really looked up to kept moving on, right? They had moved to different companies. So one of them was who later became my very good friend till today, like a family friend, right? His name is Ramakrishna. So he had moved on and joined Zeta, right? So one fine day he saw some of my dribble shots which I had posted. I started learning animations and all by then. So he said, hey, you're really picking up visuals. You're doing really good at it. Would you want to come to Zeta? Or rather, he said, dude, you're coming to Zeta. That's what he said. He didn't even say, do you want to come to Zeta and all, right? And then I said, okay, you know what? It's exciting because I would really want to work with you and learn. And back then, Zeta, the only thing which there were two reasons why I moved to Zeta. One was it was from DirectEye Group. I know that DirectEye is a very established, it's a very reliable and good company, especially for developers, for designers as well. And the fact that a couple of my colleagues had gone, Rama was one of them. There was another colleague, Kshitij Pandey. They all had moved. So I thought that, maybe it's the time to move. Maybe there's nothing much left at housing. That's why I moved to Zeta, right?
Makes sense.
Go ahead.
I have one more question around this. So,
Sure.
how do you how as a designer should look at a company, and what factors should they be considering while moving? Because some of those factors might be in their mind, but not something that should be a factor for leaving or for like
Correct.
switching. Like,
Correct.
what do you suggest to them? What kind of factors they should look at?
See, a couple of these things, right? Whenever, when you move to a new company, you haven't been to that company, right? You will go there, but you'll have to decide before. It's always a bet. no matter how much of head you put, no matter how much of thinking you do, it's always a bet at the end of the day. If it turns out good, well and good, but there are also some chances of it turning out not good. So our work as employees is to just make sure that that is slim. The chances of it not working out is as slim as possible. I'm sorry, I'll have to just give me a sec. Yeah, I guess you can cut that part.
Yeah. You can cut and chop. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that chance always remains. So our work is to minimize that, right? Couple of things that you can see is, first of all, why do you want to move? You need to know the reason. There could be some reasons in your mind. It could be that, you're not learning anything new. You're not doing anything new. It's pretty much the same thing that you're doing again and again, right? That could be one of the reasons. Or it could even be maybe you're not getting paid enough. Or maybe the culture of design is not good in the present company, right? You're not really thinking, or you're not really using your full potential. There could be multiple reasons around it that way. So you figure out what that is, right? That's one of the things, your reason to leave. And the second thing is your reason to join, right? What is there in that company? What do you think are the things which is better than this? There are probability of getting better. It could be it's a better team where you can learn from them, or is it a better culture, or in general, is the product is perceived as a very well designed product, right? Like I said, don't look at the company. Companies could be very big, but look at the product, because your work is to design, right? Like, think about it. There is definitely some guy who works at Apple who makes coffee out there, the chai wala sort of person, Apple employee. But then is chai really the thing that is Apple is known for? Not really, right? It's their maybe hardware design, their technology, everything, right? So whatever you do in that company, is that what it is known for matters. So I definitely look at that thing. And that's how I have made most of my switches, Swiggy including. And I see, is it going to give me a raise up my ladder? When I say raise up, it could be in terms of title, in terms of money, in terms of everything, right? So if I feel that it's a natural step up the ladder, I make the move. Right? I make the move. But having said that, the last company I applied to was housing. Okay, so every other company I was approached, I would say I'm fortunate enough for that. So Zeta, like my friend said that, hey, you're coming to Zeta. Of course, there was process. It's not that, hey, there was an open offer for me. That never happens, right? You always get into conversations, and those conversations may or may not feel like interview, but people do evaluate you, and you are given the opportunity to evaluate them. So it's a two-way thing. So when interviewing, I make sure that, I analyze the person as well, right? So that's very important for me. If I see any kind of flags in whichever person I work with, especially if they're related to design or product, I call it out. I call it out to the HR. Hey, say, what? I don't think this person was this, right? So yeah, I think it's a two-way thing. So that's how I usually take decisions.
Sounds good, and I think that will be a very nice advice for people who would be listening. I think that's where I want to jump to Swiggy. So, being at housing, being at Zeta, then you made the switch for Swiggy. So, how did first that happen? And again, I think you still told, but just want to let you know, like, what kind of decisions made you shift to Swiggy at the right time and right place.
Right. So again, Swiggy, I was also approached. So there was a PM friend of mine who was at Zeta before, who moved to Swiggy, right? And the head of design at Swiggy, Srinath, who's still the head of design, by the way, right? So he had been seeing some of my online works, apparently, even when I was at Zeta, the stuff that I was posting on Dribbble and all. And he liked it. And apparently the CEO of the company, Harsha, also had seen some of this work, and both of them had discussed that, hey, this guy is good. Apparently, all these are stories, by the way, right? So this PM friend of mine, he got me connected with Srinath. It was very casual to start with. My first conversation was at a coffee shop, right there. It was not that, he was evaluating me. He knew that, it's a two-way thing. So that's, I think, very good. That the first impression was very nice, right? They never said that, hey, you come, right? They said, hey, this is what we have for you. So the approach was always very, forward giving sort of thing. Say, look, this is what we are today. This is what we want to do. He even showed me some of the things which were not live. Back then, the Swiggy grocery and all, nothing was there. It was just food. So he had shown me some prototypes. It was called Swiggy Stores, the first version. He had actually shown me. So, these things are confidential. You don't. But then he had so much of faith in me that he showed it to me, because that was absolutely needed to to convince someone like me, because I would definitely have the questions as to, you already have a very good, well-designed app going on. What do you want me to do out here? It's already done. It's a done job, finished job, right? What do you want me to do? So it was needed for him to give me a flavor of what is happening inside so that I get excited, right? So the first round was that. I really like that approach, like I said, right? More than anything. And then in a few other rounds, I was called to office one day. I met a few other people. I met one more designer. I met one more product manager. I think that's about it, right? And most of these were very casual conversations. Of course, everything had things that they were evaluating me, and there were things that I was evaluating them, but it felt very natural. So that's how Swiggy happened. The things that I looked into, of course, was it was a big brand. Even back then, 5 years back when I joined, it was a much bigger brand than Zeta. It was a consumer direct brand. Everyone was using it. I was using it too. And everyone used to speak of Swiggy as a well-designed app. Right? Hey, it's a beautifully simple, well-designed, no-nonsense app, right? So that would be good for a designer like me, because design is getting appreciated, right? In addition to many other things, of course. So I looked at some of those things, and of course, I was a senior product designer at Zeta, so Swiggy was offering me a lead product designer. Felt like a step up the ladder. Of course, money and all were also sorted. They were paying what I had asked for, almost, right? The only thing that was holding me were my friends. So there was a time, I actually thought I will decline the offer. In fact, I have a mail in my drafts even today, a long mail that I had written to Srinath. Srinath, hey, sorry, I won't be able to join for various reasons. Very long mail, right? I didn't send it, right? So the day I move on from Swiggy, I'll probably talk about that mail more, right? So it was just my friends and emotional bonding that I had with the people of Zeta was holding me back. But then when I practically looked into it, I saw that, hey, you know what, for me to move ahead in my career, I will have to do it. And for me to be friends with these people, I don't really have to be their colleagues as well. And that's true. They're still my friends. Some of the closest friends that I have in Bangalore are the friends I made at Zeta, right? So so it was quite obvious towards the end that why I should be moving to Swiggy.
And I think that sounds really great, because that decision, if you would have sent that mail, your life would have been a different path. And right, again, I don't know if we would be sitting here or
It
not,
wouldn't.
but
It wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad, Abhay. So like, it's another thing. The small things which attract you towards. Right. So when I was having this call, which first meeting with Srinath, right, for Swiggy, he said, if you don't join Swiggy, you will still do good in Zeta, because I know you have seen your work. Wherever you are, you will shine. That's what he said. Imagine someone's trying to get me into their team, and he's saying that, hey, even if you don't join, you will still do good. He's making you so comfortable in your place, right? But in Swiggy, there are lots of other things that can happen. So all these things, make you feel that, hey, this is a company I should put my bet on. This is the person I should put my bet on. Yeah.
because they were telling you that you are good and we want you, not because like you should just be here and then only you will be good. You will be
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
wherever you go. You are a good
Yeah.
as a designer, as a person. We appreciate that, and
Right.
it would be really great to have you.
Yep. Yep.
That sounds amazing. So I think the next question is more about how it has been at Swiggy. It's been more than 5 years now, like around just 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to summarize, but I want you to know, like, being a designer, like I think you have jumped up the ladder a lot, and it would have been a crazy journey. So what some things you can tell that are crazy while developing a food tech and a consumer tech brand overall? Like what things were unique today within these 5 years you have noticed?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 5 years, of course. I'm completing 5 years on 2nd of July. Don't
Yeah.
know if you plan to release it on that day or so. So 2nd July is my work anniversary. I'll be completing 5 years at Swiggy. The longest I've worked for any company. I never thought when I was joining Swiggy, I never thought that 5 years is what I would stay. I thought 2.5 years after that, I'll bye-bye and just go to some other place, right? But then, first of all, Swiggy as a product is extremely exciting. I can't think of any other product that is as exciting in India at this point of time, right? Everyone knows about it. Everyone uses it. Almost, right? Urban, you would, whenever, of course, now a lot of people know me that I'm with Swiggy because it's been a lot of time. Towards the beginning of my Swiggy career, whenever I would tell anyone that, hey, I'm a designer at Swiggy, I would only hear praises. Nobody has ever said, hey, Swiggy, this is really bad. You need to fix this. Actually, I don't remember anyone saying that. Everyone said, oh, you work at Swiggy. I really love it. I use it every day. That's the only thing I heard whoever I spoke to. Of course, when I say whoever, mostly techies and people like me around in and around Bangalore in some metro cities. So of course, I don't mean entire India, but my world, if I say, everyone knew it. So that's a motivation for me even today, because that part has not changed. That part has not changed. It is still a very desirable app. It's still a very desirable company to work for. And I feel I'm fortunate enough to be in a fairly good position in that company, right? And if you ask me, it's very similar sort of thing that we are doing. We are still selling food. Okay, we are now selling groceries as well. We are selling a few other things, but the challenges are new every single time. If you look at from a UI or an element level view, it's still item listing or it's still the restaurant listing. We're just putting this, we are adding this, removing this and all. But then that's just the output. Like the input, the problem is new every single time. And, we'll have to think a lot before, making even a small thing. Because as with every passing day, of course, when I joined the company, we were not even a unicorn, right? We were not even a unicorn. I think after 2-3 months after I joined, we became a unicorn. And today, official records, we are a decacorn, right? Of course, valuations keep going up and down as we know. But I've seen all these things happening, and I've also seen how decision making changes. Right? Today, one of the most important things for me, at least in my position, to make sure that how can I create the right balance between the business needs and the user needs? That's a very challenging part. It sounds like, hey, you need to understand business. I will understand business. Okay, I need to make profit. But it's not as simple. When you understand a business problem, this is what we are trying to drive. This is what we are trying to move. And then how do you apply your design expertise to move that in the right way? Move that and also not create anything adverse for your users. In fact, creating something better. That's a very challenging thing to do, right? And I personally find it very exciting. And given the position I am in, I get to take a lot of big decisions, which directly has a lot of impact. And of course, I own up the results as well. At times things go well, at times things do not go well. But it's a sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride that for such an awesome thing, such a big and important thing, I am taking some decisions, right? It's a next level feeling, Abhay. I can't explain it to you as a designer. I just love that feeling. But having said that, of course, I'm open. I'm open, right? It's not that, I just want to sit here and retire. No, that's not really the case. I'll move on from this company someday, right? But then it's exciting so far.
That makes a lot of sense. Because I'm not too experienced, but whenever I get to take some decisions on the product that I'm designing, it makes me feel so good. And you are at a position where you're, and again, Swiggy impacting a lot of people, a lot of users, and your decision impacting having a really big impact. Again, I can't even say that feeling. It's just a feeling,
Right.
which you can only you can only understand, and that makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense. And I think those experiences will only be there when you are there in a company, when you are able to, again, as you said, you joined Swiggy because you felt comfortable, you felt like this is a place you want to be, this is a place that is good for your career overall and life as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So I think your design journey has been super crazy and everything, and I think now I just want to jump to a little bit of your other parts of your life around social and how you have been doing YouTube for a while. So I, like, everybody knows that you have been doing YouTube and helping people out with motion design and overall general designers to help to kind of grow in their career. And also you I think recently started Instagram and have been growing super good. So how did that spark of doing these things came around, and how do you think has impacted the overall industry and your life generally?
Right. See, I'm a person who's most comfortable on stage. Okay, it's my personal nature, right? I don't know. I'm a Leo. My sunshine is Leo. If that's a reason or not, I don't know, right? I like that attention. I like when when a lot of people are listening to me or looking at me, see, or whatever, right? I like that, but it doesn't mean that it just starts from the scratch. You'll have to be, you'll have to prove yourself around a particular topic when someone would even be willing to listen to you, right? So that's how it was, right? So I delivered my first talk many years back in 2017. right? 2017 or 16, I don't remember. It was on motion design. It's still on YouTube, right? It was a very big event actually. And I don't know, I mean, actually I was referred by a very senior, very revered designer, Suneet Singh. You might have heard of him. He's a very respected Indian designer, very senior, right? So he had recommended my name for that talk. The event was called Meta Refresh. It's a very big event that happens in Bangalore. So that was my first talk, right? So when I got that opportunity, it's not that, hey, I got it, I'll have to nail it. I'll have to nail it. I don't have an option, because if I fuck this up, I'm not getting a second opportunity, right? So I tried my best to do a very good job at delivering that talk. I don't know how good it went, but of course, it was definitely not a disaster. So one thing led to another. I got a lot of opportunities to speak in public, conduct workshops, and just come and speak to the audience. I got many such opportunities, right? So it went on very actively till COVID, right? Till COVID. In fact, I was traveling cities, going to Delhi, going to Bombay, going to Coimbatore, delivering talk, this, that. That's like busy life, right? Every weekend I'm just flying somewhere outside, right? I love that. I still love that. I still do it, by the way. But then COVID came and all of these things had to stop, right? But I always felt that, hey, my presence is on the stage. The way I interact with my audience, the way I physically be present with them, that's my forte, is all what I always thought, right? Hey, the screen and all is like, it doesn't feel good, is what I always thought. But then came COVID, and then I started getting approaches for webinars, because physical things were not possible. It was all about webinar. Then in one request, I reluctantly said, yes, okay, chalo, let's do it. And when I did it, I realized that webinars are probably even better. You could still, use your charisma to drive the same sort of emotions that you do on stage, just that now you have the option to reach out to 100 times the audience. If my physical talk was, say, attended by an average of 100 people, my digital talks would be at least 500 people, because it is possible, right? So then, one webinars led to another. In fact, the number of webinars I did was way more than the number of physical talks I did, because it was almost every weekend, at times twice. This ends, then that starts and all. It was too much. Like 2020, 2021 was like peak of all these things, okay? Then 2022 onwards, I became very choosy. I started saying no, left, right, center and all. So that's how it happened. So when I saw that webinars were working, I thought, hey, why not YouTube? Let's try. I have this camera. I bought this mic. Let's get started, right? So that's how I made YouTube. And YouTube was also good to start with, because a lot of people knew me as a designer. So to give you an example, you are also a YouTuber, right? Getting your first 1,000 subscribers is extremely tough. You know that. I got my first 1,000 subscribers in my third day with 0 videos on my channel. Only a teaser video. It was just a teaser video, which I said that let's get started. It was just a 10 seconds trailer. It's still there. Teaser, first video. With that video alone, I could exceed 1,000. Why? Because people knew me. It was not for what I have done on the channel. It is for what I have done before. And when I said I'm starting a channel, it's like, hey, I'm signing up for you. I'm putting my money on you, right? So let's just go ahead and subscribe. So my journey, the starting had been good. So I have been doing it for quite some time now. But then in between, I had to lower it down. There's always a time comes when you're doing good. And that's a time maybe, you alone are not able to manage, because, you're scaling up. But then you took too much time to hire a team. You don't realize that this is the time I should. That's when things slow down. That had happened to me, right? But now I'm picking up again, because now I have a team. I don't edit my videos anymore. So I have help for script writing. I just record. I have help for editing. I have help for many other things, right? So yes, I'm scaling up the channel once again, which was almost dormant for quite some time. And Instagram also happened in a very similar way. I used to post design related content, and but then I thought that there are things around design which can be narrated as a form of a story. I started doing that, and I saw that people liking them. They were very adjacent to design. Say I was connecting everything to psychology. If I'm saying that, hey, why the British aircraft was shot down in the wings and people thought this and whatever, right? I would connect it to design. But then one thing led to another. I saw that I could talk about 5 movies that you should watch. I could talk about 5 kinds of coffee that you should know, so that you can order like a boss. So yeah, and the audience kind of started pouring in. And when you have the audience, when you have the eyeballs, you get the confidence. Chalo karte hai, let's do it a little more. So yeah, that's how Instagram is also going on, and I hope it just goes on. Yeah,
it will. And I think that sounds really great. And I think people would have got a lot of small pieces from the whole conversation that you said. And I'm looking forward to the 1,000 subscribers after your podcast releases in AI. So,
Of
but because
course.
I'm still
Folks,
yet
please
to, but
go and subscribe to Abhay's channel if you haven't already. This guy's doing an amazing job. Please go ahead and do it.
thanks a lot. But just kidding. But I think that sounds really great. That being able to put that content and everything, and again, because it does require a lot of efforts, right? It's not easy. And as you scale, it definitely not easy, and you have to think about a lot of things because, as you said, when you're speaking in front of audience, it's gonna reach to 100 people. But when you put it out on internet, it's gonna reach out to a like massier audience.
There's
It's
no
too
end.
much.
There's no end.
Exactly. So it's you have to put out a content that's going to be helpful. You can't just put out anything. You have to make sure that you are responsible for what you're putting out, and that makes a lot of sense. So I think I want to just slide down a little smoother to your motion design journey. That I know that you have that nick of motion design. You really experiment in those zones. I just have one question straightforward because a lot of designers, majority would be watching this, and I want to ask this: how do you think motion generally plays a good role in user experience? If you can give some examples around Swiggy or generally, that would be really awesome.
See, motion design is a tool. Okay, of course, I'm not talking tool as After Effects. Motion design is a tool. It unlocks a lot of possibilities, right? Let me draw a parallel. I'm sure all the designers are listening to this. You all would have seen the recent Apple event, the Apple Vision Pro, which came, right? Now, what is this Vision Pro doing? It is unlocking many possibilities, right? I can sit in a 3x3 chair and I can wear it and I can feel like I have a huge room where I have 4 huge displays in front of me where I'm editing my videos or I'm doing my Figma or whatever, right? So this thing has enabled something which otherwise would have needed me to have a huge room with monitors and stuff. Motion design does something very similar. Okay, it enables you to do a lot of things. Like simple thing could be, attention, drawing attention, right? Normally if you're just static, you'll have to think of, hey, I'll have to make it bigger, or I'll have to use this color, or I'll have to do this and that. But when it comes to animation, all you need is maybe just 2 pulses. You do it and then you stop, and you don't really have to use any louder color or anything. This is the simplest use of motion design, right? So it's an enabler for me. Similarly, if you take even bigger things, like of course, I'll have to make it delightful and narrate a story instead of writing a lot of text out there, right? Writing a text is boring. Nobody reads it, right? But I can use some characters and I can create some animation. A short 3-second animation can tell those 50 words worth of story that you have written. This is the power of motion design. It's an enabler, right? I see it that way. Honestly, I see it that way. If you ask me from a UX design point of view.
Makes a lot of sense. And so recently, with obviously Apple event was a Kickstarter, but I think a lot of people have been trying to learn VR, AR, and everything. And I think it's my take that most of the AR, VR principles are related to what we do today. If I move my hand, what will happen in AR? Like it's very generic, but when we think about it, it can do a lot of things. So the potential is too wide, and I don't know how far we're going to go. But what you told about motion really makes a lot of sense, and how motion really plays a role in UX. That's really awesome. And I think I have just one last question till we jump to a really fun round. Uh, this is one of the serious questions I ask everyone who comes on the podcast. So
Sure.
you have had amazing journey from IIT Madras to housing to Zeta to Swiggy now, and then having a crazy content journey as well. What do you think is next for you? Like you have been doing so well. So what's next for you?
I don't have a concrete answer, but I do see a lot of opportunities or a lot of possibilities, right? Maybe the simplest thing could be I just continue doing what I'm doing, right? I'll keep moving ladders. Maybe I will, I'll get to head and lead bigger teams, bigger stuff and all, right? Essentially become a head of design or something, right? If I just keep doing what I'm doing today, that's one possibility. Another possibility that I see is that maybe my content thing blows up, right? And once that, will I leave my job? I don't know. A lot of people ask me this question. Like someone said that, hey, when you hit 100K, you essentially quit your job. I said, I know, I don't think so, right? I don't think so, because I'm not just doing it for money. I mean, my job or nor content creation, money is it keeps coming and it motivates me. I love to earn money, no doubt about it, right? But it's not that just because I have another way to earn money, I will stop doing something. I started this because, remember, it was my hobby and someone was paying me for me to pursue my hobby, right? So that's how I really enjoy doing it. So yeah, another thing that could happen is my content game blowing up. If that happens, I don't really know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll start creating courses or I will start doing something else. I do not know about it. Another thing, I don't know, haven't really thought about it much, is I think I can even set up an agency. It's design consultancy agency, right? For the experience that I have, or at least for the reputation that I managed to grow over the years, I could make that work as well, right? Because I would be seen as a value add in other companies, and I could be, one of those agencies which are sought after. That's also another possibility that I see. I don't know, yeah. I don't know about more. Or in alternate life, if I see that, hey, I just stop doing everything and I just be a test driver of motors or something, because cars is another thing. I really love cars. so I have tons of things in my mind, dude. Like I said, right? What IIT had taught me, I feel I can do anything if I just want to. It's that, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. I think there's endless possibilities of where you can end up to, and what you can do, and it's to be crazy. And I think so. It's just like COVID. No one expects it, but it comes. Like you can't do shit. So so many people had so many plans of traveling,
Oh
and assume
yes.
you even did, right? So, but you couldn't. Like this, like I can't. This Some things
Yeah.
are not in control. So who knows what
Correct.
comes, what doesn't.
Exactly. I think I
Amazing.
just go with the flow. I'll just go with the flow.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's the only way to go, to be honest. Amazing. I think I want to jump down to a very fun round. This is a rapid fire round. I have some amazing questions in front of me. I will ask you some questions. You just choose. I will give you some choices for some questions, and for some questions it's not. You just let me know what you think about it and what you want
Sure.
to choose. Cool.
Let's do it.
Let's start. The first one. If you could describe your design philosophy in one word, what would it be? First, simplicity. Second, innovation.
Simplicity.
Hmm. Which design principle is crucial for creating a seamless food delivery experience? Consistency or feedback and communication?
Feedback and communication.
Now, like AI is in picture and like it has amazing impacts. What do you prefer, AI assisted designs or AI generated designs?
AI assisted designs. I don't think AI generated designs are good enough, at least in the present form. Yeah,
Agreed.
I can keep speaking about AI. That's a different thing. Yeah.
uh, when it comes to user testing, do you prefer remote or in person?
In person. No doubt.
Yeah. When designing interface, do you lean towards minimalistic or rich and immersive visuals?
Depends. At times minimalistic, and at times, if the need is such, immersive. Depends
Hmm.
on what I'm making.
Crazy. When it comes to creating user decisions, or like when it comes to user decisions, do you prefer data driven decisions or empathy driven decisions?
I would say not objectively either of them. It's usually a combination of data, user research, and intuition. These three. Yeah.
Yeah. When designing for accessibility, do you prioritize visual accessibility or interaction accessibility?
Uh, I think you'll have to do both. You'll have to do both. Because you'll realize that often a lot of interaction stuff are not really accessible. At a simple thing, somebody recently educated me that swipe, when you swipe to pay and stuff, that's not a good thing for accessibility, is what I was told. I didn't know that. I got educated, so I think it has to be a mix of both.
Makes sense. When designing for global audience, do you consider cultural sensitivity and localization, or universal design principle and
No,
accessibility?
it's the former. It's the former. It's not that I don't do it as a part of my job, but I have done it. I have designed extensively for the Middle East market. Yeah, knowing the culture, knowing the place is very important.
Interesting. Now are some fun ones. So, would you rather design for a superhero or a supervillain?
I'll design for a super villain.
Everybody answers the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah, everybody answers we want to design for supervillain. I was like, okay, cool.
I was about to say
Would
depends, but then I say no. You know what? Super villain would be fun.
crazy. Would you rather design for a local business or a global brand?
Global brand.
Would you design for a museum or a theme park?
Theme park. I'm not a big fan of museums, although I've visited many of them. Yeah.
It's just not fun for even for me. I visited some.
I mean,
Just
some museums could be fun, but then
yeah,
some others not so much. There's only so much of museum I can take. My wife
yeah.
loves museums though, so I get
You
dragged
have
onto
to.
many museums. Yeah.
Interesting. Would you rather design for a sci-fi movie or romantic comedy?
I think a sci-fi movie. Although I'm
No
not a big
colors.
fan of no, not a big fan of sci-fi movies like to watch in general, but I think I would get to do a lot in a sci-fi movie from a designer's perspective. So yeah, sci-fi movie.
Agreed. Last one. Would you rather design for a video game or a board game?
Wow. Again, I'm more of a board game person, but I will design for a video game.
My answer would be if I can design the board game from the logic itself, I would do the board game first. Yeah,
Okay,
because
I think
video games are
I
that's
think I
cool.
could do the same in video game as well. But yeah, I'm just looking at a holistic thing that if I really get to design, I'll probably get to apply both. You know, my
Yeah.
my logical thinking as to how to make it an interesting game, and also, uh, all the other fancy stuff that we can do using our tools.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think, Sapta, I think these were the rounds end. I think I just have one last question. That's
Sure.
one question I ask every guest that comes. So, again, amazing journey, amazing experiences. You have even managed a lot of your budding designers. You have hired a lot of budding designers. What one piece of advice would you say in the market right now that any budding designer should take?
Any budding designer should take one advice, right? Okay, I'll tell one thing. Recently, I told somebody, and I think that's a good one I can share. See, there are lots of resources in the internet in the market right now using which you can learn design. Right? Theory is everywhere. You can read about a lot of these things. Right? And I can give the same advice to even design students who are learning design right now. Like whenever you see any kind of conflict between theory and your common sense, always go by your common sense. Always go by your common sense. It's not that the theory is wrong. If you see that conflict between them, it means that you haven't probably understood the theory well enough. Right? Couple of years down the line, you will see that, hey, you know what? It was not really a conflict. It was pretty much as per the theory, just that I didn't see it in the right way, right? But having said that, your understanding of theory could be shaky or not good, but your common sense will always tell you the right thing. So when you have a conflict, always pick common sense.
Amazing advice, and I think that's a very crazy advice to have. And I think that's the end, Sapta. I think thanks a lot for coming in. Thanks a lot for taking out time, and thanks a lot for sharing amazing journey, amazing life, amazing advices, and amazing advices for each one of the people who would be listening to this. I just want to thank the audience out there also for listening to the end. If they are, I think for your podcast they would be, and if they are not, then I think they should again. But I will definitely link your socials in the description for anyone who want to reach out and who don't know you for some reason. But thanks a lot, Sapta, for coming in, and thanks a lot for giving out your time.
Thanks a lot, Abhay. I think thanks a lot for inviting me. I really enjoyed the conversation that I had. And like I said, I've conducted a lot of podcasts. Nobody in the past managed to find out that marketing background, that little marketing background that I had. You did. I mean, so you've done a
Yeah.
good job at researching about me, but I really enjoyed the conversation with you. And yeah, note to all the audience, thanks for listening. If you have come all this way here, follow both of us and please subscribe to Abhay's channel. Let's get him the
Thanks a lot.
1K subscriber.
Thanks a lot, Sapta. Thanks a lot for everyone, and see you guys in the next one.